Alrighty, with this one right here coming into this one, and this whole thing right here, you got unlimited bootings, Dsavv. You got the Dsavv, especially with Dsavv, and you got the limited bootings, and especially with this whole mash coming through this, especially with the whole like you see the whole the whole claimer and everything else, and just the art desire and everything else. But you got the especially with the bootings, the limited bootings, and especially with this whole match right here, like you got a match thing coming through this one and everything else, especially with the unlimited bootings, and especially with the Dsavv, just the Dsavv, coming through this one, and just with this whole thing right here, especially with the whole art desire and everything else, especially how a lot of these arts come through and everything else, but you just got with the whole, unlimited bootings.
I slim typical, I see you.
Hey, listen. Stop getting sturdy on TikTok and go bust your gun. You understand? What's fucking going on, man? Trust me.
Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the FNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or die, just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless you lost this gun out of gram and sell that fucking looting. Big dog at the FNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B.
What's fucking going on, man? Trust me.
Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the FNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or die, just
Ooh, take them strips, some limited boot, hey, a limited bootings. We did a limited shootings too, especially how them whole things come, like, how the cost comes and how the price comes, like, like he said, we did a little bit, a limited those shootings, a limited those bootings, and, especially that stuff that, everything that comes, like, hey, he put in the whole thing, like he said, even as it don't, backline it, backfire anything, limited shootings, limited everything, especially how the whole thing comes in and storage and everything else, events into it.
just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless you lost this gun out of gram and sell that fucking looting. Big dot spoil up them beating. Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the FNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or die, just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless you lost this gun out of gram and sell that fucking looting. Big dot spoil up them beating. I just stepped on there with
Ooh, big dots, unlimited food fin and everything else, and especially with the lasers, like the lasers is real, like the lasers and everything else. Like how these lasers is coming through, these lasers coming through with a benefit, like a whole benefit script, especially how this whole thing, is like he had the beamer and everything, like you got the limited beamers and limited, especially the lines and the standards.
Bug. All we wanna do is shoot up a up boy. Me and Desi were just alike on the strip pole, always getting stopped by a cop boy. What you know about two cars up with raps and shots circling no convoy? Now make our way to the limb. If you lose on the strip, just hold this convoy. SMB ain't Shankman's bait, like his pussy your friend called D. Oh, Joe, they're cappers, steady get smoked by T1. My niggas in jail, smoking the spare in Joe, man, I wish I can free one. See why my ops are losing, cause see why I slap it up when he sees one. Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the FNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or
Ooh, take that strip, do a limited boot. Ooh, take that strip and do a limited bootings. Take that strip and do all kinds of, limited bootings.
die, just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless you lost this gun out of gram and sell that fucking looting. Big dot spoil up them beating. Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the FNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or die, just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless you lost this gun out of gram and sell that fucking looting. Big dot spoil up them beating. What do you mean by we don't drill? Red gang we're lit and bad and we shank guys up cause we love this thrill. Me and Bug, ram and pots, done mash better work if I stainless steel. I don't play no game when I ride, my aim is to fucking kill. T give chat when his shanks so nil. My ops are fucking jokers. Funny boy Joe, the chest shot. They ripped and he held up a headshot. Broski missed and he let off a net shot. He came back vexed on the block, burned his clothes, then went to the next.
Oh, and he's letting it know, like he putting in both, both of of a steering way, he's letting the whole thing know like what's actually going on, the whole thing, especially how the whole thing is, a nickifying, especially how this whole thing is a nickifying. Like, hey, the truth is the truth, and the truth behind everything else, it really, and it solidifies everything that's actually going, solidifying everything that's going on, around the whole, solidify, all type of, peace wrong.
That's another outfit just sorted. And next time, bro's getting a headshot. Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the LNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or die, just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless she lost his gun out of gram and saw that fucking looting. Big dot spoil up, then boot him. Me and bro done unlimited shootings. At the LNTP, then take that strip, done unlimited beatings. Bad B1 ride or die, just ride and bounce straight back at Tootin'. Unless she lost his gun out of gram and saw that fucking looting. Big dot spoil up, then boot him.
I man can keep saying names, but fuck it, man. This team might get taken down, you understand? Fuck the boss anyways. Bow.
Ooh, this one right here, it was a vicious, it was a vicious, and it was strange to see the whole thing, especially how this gets like everything else, it comes in with a stretch thing, like stretchy and everything else, especially with the limited bootings, especially, this whole thing coming through you like, it ain't no telling, ain't no telling, what's actually going through this, what's actually going on, because especially with the bootings and this whole thing coming past it, like you got the whole thing past the whole thing, like you can't even come fish that off, especially with this one right here and everything else coming through this, but you just got with the limited bootings and especially with these Dsavvs coming through this whole thing. But most definitely give it a like, give it a comment, give it a subscribe, everything else, Make sure you guys definitely, tune in with this one right here. But you just got with the bootings, like, something that vicious. Like he was putting the whole thing, like especially how the whole thing was lavish station too, and everything else. Like he was on some lavish type of standing. But just with this one right here and the bootings with Dsavv.